Shalom. Let's talk about the concept of prayer. The truth is that tefillah, prayer, is a world unto itself. And when we talk about the Jewish perspective of what prayer is really all about, it's the opportunity for a person to engage in such an intimate relationship with the Holy One, blessed be He, that it's like the whole world is in a state of suspended animation except for you and God. That at that moment, He has your full attention. You know, prayer is actually a positive commandment. We are instructed to pray daily, and the truth is that one can ask, and the great philosophers talk about this, well, God created us, He knows all of our needs. He certainly knows my needs even better than I know them myself. So why do I have to ask for anything? Why do I have to engage in any sort of requesting? And of course, the truth is, as we're going to see, prayer is much more than just asking for something, asking for our needs. It's really kind of almost like a whole dialogue even, and it almost goes both ways. But the interesting thing is that Maimonides, again, the great codifier, who just in his lucid language makes things so clear, he explains that by praying to Hashem, we are demonstrating that we believe that He is our God and that we have a personal relationship with Him. And we are kind of expressing our faith in a tangible way and showing that we believe that He cares about us and that He will listen. And so the whole idea of prayer is based on establishing a relationship. And it's not easy for some people to find the posture and to feel comfortable with talking to God. It's something maybe that we have to get used to. But actually, there's different types of prayer. Now, in the Jewish pattern of prayer, we have the set prayers. And I'm talking about the main prayer services of the morning and the afternoon and the evening, because there's also the concept of the blessings that we recite over everything that we partake of in this world in order to bring it to a state of being permissible for us to use. There's also various prayers and various blessings for all sorts of occasions. But for now, when I'm talking about prayer, I'm really talking about the main service, the daily service, which on the one hand is associated with the service in the Holy Temple, because there's a concept that the service, the offerings in the Holy Temple are like pillars that hold up the entire universe, and that in the absence of those offerings, in the meantime, we have kind of the same spiritual rectification through the daily service. But at the same time, there's also a parallel concept that our sages tell us, that the daily prayers that we recite correspond to our forefathers and to their attributes, because they actually invented the daily prayer service. Abraham, the morning service, and Isaac, the afternoon service, and Yaakov is associated with the evening service. But what this all really boils down to for Jew and Gentile, and for the righteous Gentile, the Noahide, who wants to come close to the Jewish concept of prayer and express himself according to Torah, you know, it's good to get into a pattern of being able to speak to God at the same time every day. And it's very prudent and healthy and constructive for us to get into a place where we realize the sanctity of time, you see. And we measure the day, the passing of the day, by the nuances, the mood of that day, and its particular prayer service. And of course, on a deeper mystical level, the morning is associated with kindness, and the later part of the day is associated maybe with a certain type of severity, a certain type of justice, you know, din. But the idea is really, a lot of Noahides ask, well, you know, I want to pray. Can I use the Siddur? Can I use the Jewish prayer book? A lot of Noahides feel, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this because there are prayers that seem to be very specifically about Israel. So first you should know that there are a number of prayer books that are already available that have been written by rabbis for Noahides. And this is a project that some have been working on, and some of them are pretty good, and some of them maybe leave something to be desired. But there are others even now that are working on maybe a prayer book that will be universal in its appeal, and that all Noahides would be able to feel comfortable with. But certainly, I know that there are many Noahides today that do feel comfortable with the Siddur, that means literally the order, the prayer book of Israel, and who kind of make some adaptations for some of those prayers that they feel comfortable with, and I think that's perfectly acceptable and even praiseworthy. But the truth is that there are different types of prayer. And again, this is just an introduction, and we want to really explore together the whole world of prayer and the potential that it gives us and the opportunity that it gives us to feel that we're really being heard by God and accomplishing something in this world, growing closer to Him. But if you look at the Jewish perspective, there are clearly two types of prayer. There's the set prayer, which is communal in its nature, and it's a standardized type of form, which actually still has a lot of room in it for personal expression, and actually encompasses in it literally a litany of every possible human emotion and need. And again, that corresponds to the service in the Holy Temple. But then there's also another type of prayer, and that's the type of prayer which is more that which is made famous by personalities like the great Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who talks about the spontaneous type of prayer. The type of prayer where a person endeavors to just speak in his own language, from his own heart, like one would be talking to one's best friend or parent, kind of just pouring out emotionally the needs of the heart in privacy. And both of these concepts, it's kind of like they're twin concepts. There's the set prayers, which are very, very important. And then there's the ability of a person to feel comfortable and to just pour his heart out before God. Like David says, pour out your heart like water before the presence of God. But on this point, when we're really talking about what is prayer and what should we be trying to accomplish, I want to look for a unique definition. And I want to look for what I feel is really the essence, the heart, the spirit of the possibility of what prayer is all about. So I want to share with you a really very beautiful idea, which is actually quite amazing. When we look in Genesis chapter 48, after Jacob has been reunited with Joseph, Jacob, after being separated from Joseph for 22 years, finally lived the last 17 years of his life joyfully together, reunited with his son Joseph. And then, towards the end of Jacob's life, Joseph brings his children to him for a blessing. And we find here a very amazing couple of verses when Israel sees Joseph's sons. I'm in Genesis 48, and he says, Who are these? And Joseph said to his father, These are my sons whom God has given me here. He said, Bring them to me, if you please, I will bless them. Israel's eyes were heavy with age, he could not see, so he brought them near, and he kissed them, and he hugged them. Israel said to Joseph, I dared not accept the thought that I would see your face, and here God has shown me even your offspring. So what is he saying? He's saying, all those long years that I was separated from you, I wouldn't allow myself the luxury of thinking that I would ever see you again, because I didn't want to be crushed with that disappointment. And here, not only do I get to see you again, but I even get to see your children. I never would have imagined that. And that's exactly how we have it translated here. I dared not accept the thought. In other words, I wouldn't have allowed myself entertaining that thought even, right? I wouldn't have set myself up for that type of fall. Well, in Hebrew, it says here, for these words, which we're translating here as, I dared not accept the thought, it says, Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef, Re'ov fanecha lo filalti. This is amazing, because this filalti is an expression of tefillah. And here we're translating it as, I wouldn't have imagined, I wouldn't have dared to think that I would ever see you again. But here, I'm even seeing your children. So what this is really teaching us is that prayer means to engage in your wildest imaginings. Right? Jacob never would have allowed himself the possibility of thinking that he would ever see Joseph again, because he didn't want to be crushed with the disappointment. But it's this word, tefillah, re'ov fanecha lo filalti. What the verse is really teaching us is that to pray really means to take that thing that you would most like to see happen, that you're afraid that you'll be disappointed, or what right do I have to ask for this? And to take that very thing and bring it to Hashem. And not be afraid to take that which is most precious to you, your wildest imagining, and even that is not outside of Hashem's limitations, and to express, as Maimonides says, our faith in our personal relationship with God. by praying and by realizing that we have the ability to engage in this relationship, to take that which is most sacred to us and to bring it to Him in prayer. And that's the essence of the experience, to bear ourselves in the innermost fashion before God, to establish that relationship and to feel comfortable being able to realize that He is our Maker, He is our Father, and at this moment He is listening to no one else other than you.